Shiki-sama. I hear Hisui calling out to me as I feel the rays of the morning sun. Shiki-sama, it is time for you to wake up. Her monotone voice cuts right through my drowsiness. Good morning, Hisui. Propping myself upright in bed, I reply to Hisui. I feel a sharp pain in my temple, but it isn't anything severe enough to stop me from getting up. Shiki-sama? Are you perhaps feeling unwell? No, this is normal. I was just feeling better than usual yesterday, that's all. I'm always a little anemic, so don't worry about it too much. I lightly shake my head as I get out of bed. Thanks for coming to wake me up again today. I really appreciate it. You are very welcome, but I'm simply doing my duty. I have done nothing to warrant such kind words, Shiki-sama. You've done enough to at least warrant a thanks. It's way nicer to wake up to your voice than the blaring of an alarm clock. Plus, I'm a heavy sleeper, so I just sleep right through the alarm. That's why I'm truly grateful to be woken up by Hisui. She's even brought me a change of clothes. She really leaves nothing to be desired. It's a little after 7. I don't have much time then. You can go on ahead to the dining room. I'll be right behind you once I've changed and washed my face. Hisui is staring at me as though there's something weighing on her mind. It looks like she's trembling slightly. Is she nervous? Does he just not notice that his glasses are off? It's like, hey Hisui, it looks like you've got some lines running through you. The color of her faintly clouded eyes, it makes me... Just so that you are aware, after the lights are switched off, Nei-san and I patrol the mansion every 2 hours. Nei-san does it at 9 o'clock, I do it again at 11, and then at 1 in the morning. Nei-san makes sure all entrances to the mansion are locked. Huh? Really? Isn't that a lot of work? Surely it'd be fine to just check once at night and once again in the morning. This is simply one of the rules of the mansion. Please do not worry on our account. All this is to say, even if, hypothetically, there were a door I forgot to lock, Nei-san would find it and lock it at 1 o'clock. I see where she's going with this. At this point, I grasp what Hisui's getting at. In a roundabout way, she's explaining to me what happened with the lock on the back door to the west wing. Hisui, you noticed that I'd left? I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to reprimand you. Hisui hangs her head apologetically. No, that's not what I meant. I'm not mad. But, I see. So you knew, Hisui. That's why the back door wasn't locked. Yes, when I found it unlocked, I took the liberty of checking in on your room, just in case. Hisui answers with a very faint voice. She must find it awkward to have to say anything that makes it sound like she's criticizing her master's misbehavior. Thank you. You really helped me out yesterday. You've done nothing wrong, Hisui. I'm the one causing problems here, wandering off in the middle of the night. But I can't bring myself to ask her to keep this from Akiha. It caused her undue stress. She's been taking care of me, but her real employer is Akiha, the head of the Tono family. Having her be disloyal to Akiha would only serve to put her in jeopardy later. I'll handle explaining this to Akiha. You can just pretend you're in the dark about everything, Hisui. Hisui doesn't respond. She just stares silently at my face. What? This may be presumptuous of me, but you have not reflected on your behavior at all, Shiki-sama. Well, huh? My apologies. Allow me to correct myself. Judging by the look on your face, you do not have any intention of changing your ways, do you? She may look docile, but she sure knows how to hit me where it hurts. Sorry, I made a promise, so I have to go out again tonight as well. But I swear I'm not up to anything sketchy. I'm just, It's not like I can say I'm fighting against the remaining vampires to prevent any further casualties, but just trailing off makes me look even more suspicious. Will tonight be the last time then? Who knows, even I can't say for sure, but I don't think it will continue for long. In that case, you aren't doing anything dangerous, are you? Nothing that might lead you to coming home injured again? Oh, there's no need to worry on that front. I'll be with someone who's as strong as a tank after all. Whatever happens, I won't get injured. I feel I can be pretty confident on that point, if nothing else. There probably isn't a single person in this city that can beat Arcwade. Well, especially not at the level she's at right now. If she were how she was in the Arcwade route, we might have a little bit more to worry about. I understand. In that case, I too shall perform my duties as I did last night. I pray for your early return. Hisui bows courteously and leaves the room. Thank you, Hisui. I'm grateful to her for making such a large concession for me. She as good as told me that she looked the other way while on patrol, and that I've got until 1 o'clock to make it back to the mansion. At least we have Hisui covering for us. I change into my school uniform and leave my room. Does he still not notice that there are lines everywhere? Dude, you don't have your glasses on. How is this not affecting him? I had a headache when I woke up, but I seem to be in good shape otherwise. He must be so bad off that he just doesn't even realize that, you know, his glasses are off, and he's probably dying just by, you know, being like looking at the lines like this. I decide to go wash my face in the second floor bathroom before I head to the dining room. Now that it's autumn, the tap water's gotten colder. I usually just use my cupped hands to splash some water on my face, but on a whim, I fill the sink and submerge my head in the water. I try to drown myself. The cold water robs the warmth from my face. My eyes, nose, and mouth are all sealed off from the open air. I'm struck by the similarity of this action to making a death mask impression in plaster and lift my submerged face from the water. Who's that? I briefly feel as though something is off with the reflection that greets me in the mirror. I immediately realize that I'm not wearing my glasses. I must have taken them off to wash my face. No, dude, I think they were off before that. Even so. There, I feel much better now. Yeah, there's something wrong with Shiki for sure. Like, he just fucking broke the mirror. I put my glasses back on and decide to head toward the dining room where Kohaku-san is waiting. Watch his glasses actually not be on. Like, we already knew something was wrong when he woke up and he just didn't even realize his glasses were off. And then when he does realize his glasses are off, his first inclination is to break the mirror. And then he's like, okay, well, I'm fine now. And he just doesn't even think about the fact that he just fucking shattered the mirror. After finishing breakfast, I head to the living room. There I find Akiha, who finished her own breakfast some time ago. Good morning, Akiha. Good morning, Nissan. I'm glad to see you ready with time to spare this morning, as any healthy student should be. Our esteemed family head is in a visibly good mood as she elegantly savors her tea. I wonder what's gotten her in such high spirits. Would you like something to drink, Nissan? You still have some time, right? Sure, I'll have a cup of regular tea then. I don't believe there exists such a thing as regular tea. Kohaku, brew another cup for Nissan. I'll leave the choice of tea up to you. Understood. Considering what was on the menu this morning, I think a hojinsha should pair nicely. Kohaku-san cheerfully heads for the kitchen. I sit down on the sofa opposite Akiha and scroll through some news sites on my phone. There's an endless stream of banal stories, as per usual, but nothing new regarding the serial murders. I was fully aware there wouldn't be, but it looks like there are no new victims in the vampire incident. Having confirmed that, I put my phone back in my pocket and... Our matriarch is gawking at me, as though she's just witnessed something unbelievable. What? I can use my phone, right? All I was doing is checking the news. Oh, I'm not angry or anything. You only used it briefly, and it's good to be abreast of the morning news. I was just surprised to see you operate such a thing with ease. It didn't fit the mental image I had of you. You didn't think he could operate a smartphone? Just what image of me do you have in that head of yours? That being said, I'm no pro, I don't normally use it much, but there was something I was curious about this morning. If I want to talk to someone or ask them something, I'd much rather do it in person. Is that so? Well, so long as I've got the time. Texting someone a sentence or two can only ever convey a sentence or two worth of information. It's fine for just giving someone a heads up, but if you want to have a proper conversation, it's way better to meet up and have a chat. So you're saying that even though it's a method of communication through which people can only express a small part of themselves, people reading it incorrectly believe they've seen the whole picture. To give an analogy, it would be like seeing the tips of someone's toes, thinking that their nails resemble the claws of a cat, and so deciding that the rest of their body must also resemble that of a cat. Strange analogy to compare that with having a conversation, but okay. I am in complete agreement. People tend to think that they can get away with lying as much as they like in written communications. My dear matriarch, I hate to break it to you, but anyone with cat paws is in fact a cat. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think simple relationships are useful in their own way. It'd be exhausting if I had to bare my heart to every single person I met. Once you've been all sorts of places and met with all sorts of people, you have to start optimizing your relationships or you'll end up burning yourself out. That's what a good friend told me, at any rate. Although Arihiko, the one who said that to me, lives his life in complete defiance of that same advice. I see. I'm relieved that you have a friend whom you can trust. If the occasion arises, I'd like you to introduce him to me. I don't think she'd like him very much. So that I can use the opportunity to thoroughly interrogate him on whether he's been putting any mischievous ideas into the head of the eldest son of the Tono family, of course. Of course she has ulterior motives. It should go without saying at this point, but my little sister sure is scary. While I was chatting with Akiha, Kohaku-san returned with the Hojinsha. The heat of the Hojinsha, which is astringent yet refreshing, dispels my after-meal lethargy. It must be about time for Akiha to head to school, as she silently stands up from the sofa. I'll be off then, Nissan. I won't be back until this evening. Do you have any plans for the day? Huh? I look up, startled by her nonchalant words. Akiha asked whether I had any plans for the day. For some reason, those very ordinary words struck a chord with me. All she asked was, "What will you do today?" But I felt as though she was really asking, "What will you do from now on?" Oh, nothing in particular. I'm just going to go to school, then come right back again after. If I'd known, I'd have cleared my schedule for the afternoon. Akiha grumbles in frustration. Akiha. It's nothing. Never mind. Have a good day, Nissan, and please try not to be late. Yeah, there's the dere. There's the little amount of dere that we get from her. Akiha leaves the living room along with Kohaku-san. Now alone, I once again ask myself what's next. Up until yesterday, I'd only ever asked myself what I should do. I didn't once stop to consider what I wanted to do. What do I want to do now? As someone who's all too aware of what's happening in the city, my priority should be to clean up the remaining vampires, but putting my sense of duty aside. Unsurprisingly, Senpai's face comes to mind. Well, I do like Ciel Senpai after all. I've been charmed by her, both as a member of the opposite sex and as a human being. I want to learn more about her, and I also want to see her smile. But as much as I adore Senpai, I just can't stop thinking about Arcade. No, that's not right. It's the vampires still in the city that I can't stop thinking about. Once we've cleared them all out, then I'm sure that my partnership with Arcade will come to an end, and I'll return to the ordinary life I lived before without any lingering regrets. That's right. Of course that's what I want to do. Now convinced, I stand up from the sofa. The time is 7:30 a.m. I'd better leave soon if I want to make it on time. That being said, I'd better keep quiet about Arcade. I'm painfully aware that Arcade and Senpai are like oil and water. I don't feel good about hiding things from Senpai, but it'd be best if I try to avoid her noticing anything until after it's all over. Another ordinary day. No vampires. I mean, Ro is gone, so you know the only thing left really is what is there? I mean, that's why I feel like something's gonna happen with Arcade in this route. Like she's almost I don't know. I don't know any spoilers. I swear. I went out of my way not to spoil myself for this route. But I'm just predicting that Arcade is going to go down like an evil path or something, and we're gonna have to go against her. Because, like, there's no more enemies to fight, if you think about it. Like, Roa is gone, so what else is there? There's just the remaining vampires. And, of course, there's Arcade, and we got that one scene with Arcade, which really seemed pretty ominous, so I'm wondering what's going on with her. Like, if she's just gonna you know, there's going to be a twist where she just becomes like I said, not even joking, like yandere. You know, she just becomes an evil yandere. I arrive at the classroom 10 minutes before homeroom and spot Ciel Senpai and Arihiko happily chatting away by my seat. Huh? Ciel Senpai? What's that look for? What did we do? We didn't do anything wrong. The second I call out to her, Senpai abruptly stops talking. Yo, morning, you got some bad luck only showing up right before the bell on a day when Ciel Senpai decided to come pay us a visit. Yeah, I can see she's here, but don't you think Senpai's acting a little weird? Huh? There's nothing weird about her. What are you trying to imply about the impeccably cute Ciel Senpai? We were literally just having a grand old time talking about all the hijinks you and I used to... Huh? Looks like Arihiko's noticed it too. The person across from us is very clearly in a bad mood. The silence is crushing, painfully so. Maybe it's because she hasn't had her curry yet. Arihiko sidles closer to me and whispers in a hushed voice. Hey, you do something, Tono? Senpai looks super pissed off. She was all smiles a second ago. No, of course not. What about you? You sure you didn't say something rude to her? Senpai is sullenly glaring at me. Wait a minute. It couldn't be that she found out about me and Arquade, could it? Good morning, Senpai. You're standing next to my desk, so did you want to talk to me this morning? Not really. I have absolutely no interest in you whatsoever, Tono-kun. I was simply a little worried, so I came to check on you. I've heard that you often collapse because of your anemia. So you do have some interest in me. Shoot, that was a knee-jerk reply. I suppose one could look at it that way. Honestly, you just seem sickeningly healthy this morning. While bashfully playing with her glasses, Senpai in a polite tone gives me some uncharacteristic abuse. Anyway, I was talking to Inoue-kun. I have no business with you. Please go crawl off to the corner of the room or into a locker somewhere and do some introspection. Damn, what's going on with her? Senpai's words are cold, and her expression stiff and severe. It's like she's turned into a tsundere too. Arihiko and I shoot each other a glance, bewildered by her unreasonable attitude. Alright, I get to what's happening here. I don't know why, but looks like Senpai wants to punish you, and I mean really punish, like she's gonna make you get down on your knees and beg for forgiveness. No, I wasn't going to go that far. Sure looked like you were about to. Can't blame you. This guy's clueless when it comes to emotions, so he always makes a mess of things. Alrighty, if that's how it is, let me lend you a hand, Tono. Let's play Shiratori. Shiratori? Why? Are you serious? Senpai and I both shout at the same time. Ciel Senpai meets my gaze, and then awkwardly looks away. Why Shiratori? I need context. Well, Senpai, do you know how to make Tono cry? How to make Tono-kun cry? I don't, but I'm interested. Please do tell. I'm interested. Of course, but on one condition. You've got to make up with Tono. I'm telling you his weak point in exchange. Seems like a good deal to me. Ciel Senpai oohs and ahs excitedly. I've got to hand it to Arihiko. He's managed to cheer her right back up again. However, hey, isn't that a deal for me to offer? Yeah, but there was no way you were gonna. I mean, Senpai's been here all morning, so where the hell were you? If you're guilty of anything else on top of that, this seems like fair penance to me. No, but look, it's not even an interesting story anyway. Tono-kun, you stay quiet. Okay, Inoue-kun, hurry up. Now that I know this much, I'm not leaving until I hear the details. 3 minutes until homeroom starts. I feel like Senpai and Noelle-sensei butting heads in the classroom would be enough to give me an ulcer, so I guess I've got no other choice. Alright, without any further ado, Tono cries whenever he plays Shiratori. Try it for a minute, you'll see what I mean. Huh? Really? Shiratori is in the word chain game, right? The one where you come up with a word that begins with the last letter of the previous word. Yep, that's the one. He'll cry like a baby. Some girls back in middle school didn't know, and were so surprised when it happened. They were like, did we remind you of something sad? It ended up making him super popular for no reason. I was so pissed. What is going on with that expression? Senpai looks at me curiously, as though asking why. I understand how she feels, but the human body just behaves in mysterious ways sometimes. I don't like it when things don't come together. We've all got things that just rub us the wrong way. I mean, that goes for everyone, doesn't it? It's the same as loving or hating a particular food. So it's true? Having heard that preposterous story, Senpai timidly asks for confirmation. Yeah, it's true. Ugh, I told you it would be a boring story, dumbass. Look, Senpai's totally fed up with this. Unable to bear it anymore, I try and change the subject. Regardless of the reason, it's pretty embarrassing for your Achilles heel to be Shiratori. Except, Senpai doesn't seem to share my opinion. No, I'm not fed up. On the contrary, it moved me. So you were hiding a secret like that, Tono-kun. After musing to herself, Senpai clears her throat and regains her composure. I'm very sorry. I wanted to take some personal issues out on Tono-kun, but it was unreasonable of me and I apologize for that. I hereby swear to never bring my personal circumstances into this classroom again, and to enjoy student life to its fullest. Senpai is looking at me with her usual smile on her face. I guess she's gotten over whatever was bothering her. Now that she knows a weakness of Tono's, she feels better all of a sudden. Unfortunately, the heartless chime indicating the start of homeroom rings. Our friendly chat with Senpai will have to wait until lunch break. Oh my, is it that time already? Well then, Inoue-kun, Tono-kun, maybe if we're lucky we'll run into each other again after school. And don't skip too many classes, Inoue-kun. Senpai leaves our classroom at a brisk but natural pace. Arihiko waves her retreating figure goodbye. Seems like he's not planning on ditching class today, probably in no small part due to Senpai's chiding. Third period of the morning, mathematics. The day steadily slips by, never deviating from its well-worn routine. Humans don't change their habits unless they're actively being confronted by something abnormal. Like how I'm just sitting here in class, even knowing that some of the dead still remain. Or how some people stick to their routines even when they're fully aware that there's a serial killer on the loose. Humans are so resilient. They adapt to the strangeness of the present and dull their senses of danger, all in order to protect their future selves. This is a fundamental skill of those living in our modern society. By the way, Arihiko disappeared during first period. It seems even Senpai's admonishment had worn off after only an hour. This too is just one more example of a habit. Despite a massive hole opening up in front of the station, Inui Arihiko's lifestyle hasn't changed. Even if he does somehow sense that something is off, he still can't break that habit. Not like I'm one to talk. I'm sitting in class despite knowing there are still vampires in the city. I'm letting those vampires go unchecked to protect Tonoshiki's routine. Sure, there are other reasons why. They don't pose a threat during the day, and I can't meet up with Arkwade before nightfall. But for all my virtuous talk, I'm still putting my own life and its interests first. Is it a sense of danger or a sense of justice that I lack? Probably both. I left them in the dust the moment I chose to work together with Arkwade, with a vampire. Even while trying to conform to human society, I started down a path no upstanding human would ever have chosen. Yet here I am, feeling like that path was the perfectly obvious choice to make. Is something wrong, Tono-kun? Are you feeling unwell? I answer in the negative to the question coming from the teacher's podium. My body's feeling just fine. I'd say that since yesterday. It's even been feeling good. I cock my head to the side, puzzled by my own words, and turn to look at the window. Even ignoring the transparency of my face reflected in the glass, my complexion appears strangely morbid. My body crumples without a sound. I can hear the teacher worriedly calling out to me from the podium. I thought I'd been feeling a little too good. I guess the reason my vision has been cutting in and out for a while is because I'm dizzy from anemia. No matter how desperately I try to cling to consciousness, I can't stop it slipping away. Color abruptly blinks from my vision, as though the curtain had suddenly fallen mid-act. Yeah, I feel like this is... I do remember this from the original game. There was a point where Shiki faints and he's like taken to the nurse's room and he stays after school, and then that's when I think Roa confronts him, so maybe this will play out differently here. Suddenly, I find myself in a dream. Uh-oh, is it the one where he killed that other person, or oh, I guess not. In order to treat a disease I've had since I was a child, I spend a few months in the care of a familiar hospital. In boring tranquility, I recover both mentally and physically. When it's almost time for me to leave the hospital, I have a dream that reeks of blood. I'm entrusted to the care of my relatives, and after that, I spend my days in peace. I'm a model student and graduate from middle school without incident, but no matter how hard I try, I cannot escape the touch of death. Its indelible blemishes haunt me from the shadows. When I hear of my father's death, I return to my parents' home for the first time in years and am reunited with my sister. Though traces of the child she once was still remain, she has matured beautifully. The mansion also houses 2 girls who go to incredible lengths to take care of us. But while I still try to avert my gaze, it's impossible for me to avoid seeing the end. Ooh. I see an unfamiliar woman. She's a perfect stranger to me. It's a meaningless encounter. Even though I knew I wasn't normal, I'd been confident that I was still human. I step into her room. I'm captivated by her vibrant vitality. My spine shudders with lust. Though the concept is foreign to me, I understand that this is love. I want to know more about her, and because of that, I chop her into pieces. This is the result, an atrocity that I cannot atone for. The stain of her lukewarm blood sears my skin. Her entrails smell foul. The cesspool of intestines spilling from her dissected body make me sick to my stomach. While her abdomen calls to mind the image of a brimming stockpot, her dismembered extremities remind me of something else. They look like a sponge cake that has been cleanly sliced with a knife. There's the yellow of the sponge, the sugar white of the cream, and even the ruby red of the strawberries. The smell of blood clings to me. Its stench is synonymous with violence. The reek of that mixture of blood and gore infiltrates through my nostrils and into my brain, scrambling my sense of reason. My grip on reality weakens, gravity gives up its hold, and my eyes become fixated on the all-too-blank scene before me. To me, the light splashing of those droplets sounds like a raging downpour or a cascading waterfall. Those paltry 3 liters of blood, a boundless ocean. It is a masterpiece of dismemberment, each and every cross-section a captivating work of art. With each comparison I make, I become even more painfully aware of how monstrous I am. This must be how soldiers feel after parachuting onto the battlefield. The thing that I had been gazing down on mere moments ago is, in reality, so large that I now have to turn my gaze upward instead. Her corpse looms larger and larger. The weight of my actions comes crashing down on me like a tsunami. It's too late for me to do anything. The utter hopelessness overwhelms me. In a very literal sense, I could drown under all this information. I can't escape. I can't even breathe. This is something I'd learned of in principle, but had pretended not to see. The monumental workings of life itself. My consciousness grows smaller and smaller. My ego grows more and more distant. My existence as an individual begins to waste away, unable to bear its own vulgarity. Without any base on which to deny them, the more I try to blot out my sins, the larger the world around me grows. Before I know it, I'm scarcely larger than an insect. Her dismantled parts are like towering buildings, her spilling blood a flood that submerges the city they form. And here I am, a maggot writhing amid her corpse, gazing up at that spectacle. This is what it means to kill someone. I sit here at the epicenter of the act that I myself have perpetuated, shaking as though I'm somehow a victim, shamelessly thrashing about trying to latch onto some glimmer of salvation. I told you so. You can't hide your true colors, can you? Thinking I heard someone speak to me, I snap out of my insectile self-torment. In front of me, obviously, lies the corpse. It tells me that once the human body ceases to move, it's just in the way. It takes up space, it's difficult to dispose of, and tedious to clean up after. Right, no wonder people don't like them lying around the house. Yeah, it's just an inconvenience to have dead bodies lying around your house, that you have to clean up. Did you really think her coming back to life excused you? That was never the point. The details of who you killed don't matter. It doesn't take away from how fucked up you are. I feel so. You are always inhuman. You've no chance at redemption. I mean, did you seriously think you'd been handling your life well up until now? Disgustingly good that I want to throw up. What the hell is wrong with me? Why am I losing my head just because I've killed someone with my own hands for the first time? I'm a psychopath, more despicable than an insect. Beautiful? How could I ever think I had the right to utter such a word? I had a dream. An absurd dream in which I was a decent human being. Man, what is going on? Shiki is really... I mean, he definitely felt guilt over what he did to Arcade, but this is on another level. You know, like... I mean, it makes sense that he would still feel such immense guilt over what he did, even though he didn't necessarily mean to do it. My mind feels foggy. I think I had some kind of bad dream. That's one way of putting it. Opening my eyes, I find myself in the school infirmary. I've been here so many times that I can recognize it just by looking at the ceiling. I'm lying in bed, and the curtain surrounding me has been pulled shut. I'm awake, but my body won't move. It feels like my blood isn't making it to my limbs. The only thing I can still control is my breathing, and even that takes a conscious effort. If I let my mind wander, I'll probably fall right back to sleep. Whenever this happens, all I can do is lie and wait for my circulation to recover. Even just attempting to call out would only serve to weaken me further. Huh? As I motionlessly stare at the ceiling, my ears finally start being able to pick up sounds. I can hear voices coming from beyond the curtain. I've really been racking up expenses ever since I came to this country. It's starting to be a real problem. There's just so much nice stuff, and it's all so cheap that you can't help but splurge, you know? Oh, that reminds me. Did I tell you about the dead I exterminated yesterday? You know, the ones that were holed up in that luxury apartment? They had some real top-shelf booze. I know we're not supposed to touch anything belonging to the dead we exterminate, but man, I would have killed to borrow just one little bottle. It's not like they can taste it anyway, right? Why do they even have a wine collection? Probably a hobby from when they were still alive. Even though people who become dead apostles attain bodies far surpassing those of humans, they remain obsessed with their old idiosyncrasies. As a reaction to the changes their bodies undergo, they cling to how they were when they were still human. Oh, I kinda get it. I'm still attached to the clothes I had when I was younger. I can't wear them anymore, but I can't throw them away either, you know? I never even got the chance to wear them. It takes a lot of courage to wear a princessy dress, and by the time I had that courage, I was already an adult. Noelle-sensei. I don't mean anything by that. I was just reminiscing about the past. But I think I get it now. That explains why so many of the dead apostles back home are really into religion, as well as why the vampires over here tend to be so materialistic. Wait, but Japanese people pray to the Buddha, don't they? Ciel-san, your mother was Japanese, right? Don't you have any relatives here? That's unrelated to the matter at hand. Anyway, please be silent. You'll wake him up. Considering how tired he seems to be, we should let him sleep until lunch. The voices I can hear belong to Noelle-sensei and Ciel-senpai. Given the topic of their discussion, it seems there's no one else in the infirmary. Could it be that they heard I collapsed and came to check on me? I wonder about that. I'm not sure he's ever going to wake up again. His pulse is half the normal rate. His temperature is hovering around 30 degrees Celsius, and he isn't asleep so much as in a coma. I'd be pretty surprised if this was all it took to wake him up, wouldn't you, Ciel-san? Seems like I shouldn't have got my hopes up. Noelle-sensei sounds somewhat indifferent. That may be the case, but... It is the case, I'm telling you. Ciel-san, you're not making any sense. Doesn't it feel like we've swapped roles all of a sudden? It's like a bad joke. What's that phrase again? Even monkeys fall from trees? Did you catch a cold or something? You want me to handle investigating that dead apostle nest? The only bad joke here is the one you just told. Catch a cold? As if I'd come down with something so human. My body is functioning perfectly. I will take care of the investigation on my own. Investigating dead apostle nests? So that's the job the two of them had originally been tasked with. It makes a lot more sense than Arcade going around killing dead apostles despite being a vampire herself. Putting all that aside for the moment. Senpai, I'm actually already awake. Huh? I don't want to end up eavesdropping on their entire conversation, so I somehow managed to put enough strength into my lungs to call out to them. Shiki-kun, are you sure you're okay? You look like you're having to struggle as hard as you can just to stay alive. Should I break the news to your family? Noelle-sensei, that makes it sound like you're going to tell them to prepare for my funeral. You got me. Alright, seems like you're at least conscious enough to get the joke. Let me see, your temperature is... Oh, it's gotten up to 35 degrees Celsius. Wait, so this really was nothing more than a bout of anemia? Yeah, it was. I get anemia attacks like this all the time. I'll be fine if I just lie down for a while longer, so you can drop the stethoscope. You don't need to listen to my heartbeat or anything. And please don't pull back the blankets. Guess I'll have to examine that chest of yours some other time. It's a real shame, but I'll restrain myself for now, you know. Out of consideration for how crazy it is that you consider this level of anemia ordinary. I'm a teacher though, you know. I've got to keep an eye on the health of my students. But I'm relieved that you're safe, Shiki-kun. You did save me when we were underground, so I'd be sad if you died on me now. Isn't that right, Ciel-san? Indeed, it'd be a problem if he died on our watch, even if he did bring it on himself. I can't say I appreciate being eavesdropped on like that either. Well, hey, it's not my fault that we just happen to be in the same room. Senpai's voice is dispassionate. She's acting coldly, but this is different to the bad mood she'd been in this morning. It's pretty clear this is all an act, but it still strikes me as a bit harsh to consider what I did eavesdropping. I'm sorry that I'm weak and prone to collapsing. We can't all be as sturdy as you are, Senpai. Don't you drag my body into this? Look, just behave and stay put for a little while. It's still dangerous to be out and about in the city. We don't have time to run around bailing out people who wander off on their own and get themselves attacked. You think so? If any of the dead attack Shiki-kun, that's their funeral, no? Ooh, actually, I just had an idea. Hey, Ciel-san, why don't we get Shiki-kun to help us out with our search for the dead? It's not like any of us are strangers at this point. Noelle-sensei throws a conspiratorial wink in my direction. They're probably searching for the dead, same as Arcade. I could be of use to them, already made a promise with someone else. I feel like we should choose option 1, but I'm not 100% sure. I guess option 1 it is. Absolutely not. We don't need anyone else. Please refrain from making any more foolish remarks, Executor Noelle. I didn't even get a chance to reply. So what was the point of making a choice there? Senpai's tone of voice was no act. She rebukes Noelle-sensei with a genuinely scathing tone and begins to head for the door. I will be taking my leave now. Noelle-sensei, please remain focused on your task, and only on your task. Tono-kun, you'd better not involve yourself with vampires ever again. I'm warning you now. Anyone who breaks a promise with me had better be prepared to receive a fitting punishment. Oopsie, I pissed her off. She's a real menace when she bears her true feelings, isn't she? Well, suits me fine to see her that way. Ciel-senpai has left the infirmary, but Noelle-sensei hasn't budged from her chair. As for me, great, I can feel my hands and feet again. I take a deep breath and pull myself upright. Ugh. It's just before 11 o'clock. At this rate, I should be able to make it back in time for 4th period. Oh my, are you going back to class already, Shiki-kun? I'd assumed you'd spend the remainder of the day resting. Well, I'd love to, but if I'm well enough to move, I'm well enough to go to class. There's no way of knowing when I'll collapse next, so I can't let myself get complacent. Ooh, you're pretty earnest behind that cute face of yours. I might really be falling for you. You know, I've always had a thing for people who try to put on a brave face even when they're pushing themselves. Oh, but that only goes for men, of course. It's a totally different story if they're a woman. As she says this, Sensei takes a seat on one of the empty beds. I thought that this was more of her twisted sense of humor, but it seems like she's seriously just planning on having a lie down. Alright, run along and be a good little schoolboy then. I'm just gonna rest a little while longer. I feel like I've come down with a bit of a cold, you see? I've lost my appetite and I don't really feel like doing anything. It's like I've got heat stroke or something. She closes the curtains surrounding the bed. Noelle-sensei lies down while merrily whistling a tune. I know it's not my place to say, but is it really alright for a teacher to up and skip work like this? Yep, it's not your place to say that at all. Even adults want to slack off sometimes. Come on, what's the harm in 1 or 2 lessons being self-study? I'm just like Santa Claus, delivering presents to the children. A bit early, I admit. After giving that bizarre excuse, she falls asleep. I'd feel awkward about waking her up, and I've got to get going anyway if I want to make it in time for 4th period. I take some cold medicine from the cabinet and place it on the table just in case, then leave the infirmary. Yeah, I thought this was going to be like that scene from the original game where he just falls asleep and it ends up being after school, but then Ro is missing, so it would have played out differently, of course. 4th period is over. I wonder if I should visit Ciel-senpai in the tea ceremony room or just eat lunch alone. Either way, I need to go buy some food from the school store first. Huh? Senpai? On my way to the store, I catch a glimpse of Senpai crossing the courtyard. She's greeting all the students she passes on the way, but she's still making a beeline for the school gates. Leaving school at this time of day? Suspicious. Senpai loves the school store too much. Well, loves a certain type of bread too much to bother leaving school for lunch. Could she be going to investigate the vampire nest she mentioned in the infirmary? If she is, I can't let her do it alone. I've also got a couple of things I'd like to clear up with her. I've got to think about the promise I made with Arkway too. I'm sure she'll be pleased if I can locate their nest ahead of time. She puts on a brave face, but she's still recuperating too. It'd reflect poorly on me if I don't step up and produce some results on my own. Alright, time to follow Senpai. I don't think she'll flat out reject my help if I explain myself properly. Well, I guess that's another choice that we don't get to make for ourselves. He just does it anyway. There's some points where I'm kind of surprised we don't make a choice. He just does it. He's like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to choose to stay here or anything. I'm just going to follow her. I rush out through the school gates. Senpai was walking across the courtyard at a pretty average pace, but even though I sprinted after her at top speed, there's still a fair bit of distance between us. Senpai is over there. She's headed down the road toward the station. That silhouette couldn't be anyone else. Okay, that's definitely her, but is it just me, or is she walking insanely fast? She nonchalantly ducks into an inconspicuous side street. If I don't hurry up, I'll lose her. After running nonstop for a while, I paused for a second to catch my breath. I managed to keep up with her somehow, but then lost sight of her the moment we arrived at the plaza south of the station. It's just before 1 o'clock. This is the business district, so there isn't as much pedestrian traffic as there is on the north side of the station. There's nobody here but the odd gaggle of office workers headed back from lunch. I managed to follow her all the way to the station, but placing a hand on my chest to calm my racing heart, I take another look at my surroundings. The south side of the station offers a pretty clear view, unlike the north side, which tends to be clogged with traffic. It was a mistake to think I'd be able to stay on her trail, even with a bit of distance between us. Senpai didn't notice me, or rather, I didn't get close enough to call out to her. I don't think she would have hidden somewhere in order to evade me, which means I guess I went too fast and ended up overtaking her. No, you didn't overtake me. In this case, I believe it'd be more apt to say you've been ambushed, Tono-kun. I'm not surprised. Senpai? Where did you come from all of a sudden? Weren't you miles away just a moment ago? Miles away? That's both exaggerated and vague at the same time. I'd like to point out that we were slightly less than 19 meters apart, or about the distance between a pitcher and catcher in baseball. Crap, her expression and banter make it seem like she's playing along, but her eyes are dead serious. It's not surprising, she's just caught me tailing her, and that's on top of this morning's incident in the infirmary. Anyone would be angry after all that. But it's not like I came chasing after her just for fun. I need to seize this moment to confidently strike back. Good afternoon, Senpai. Funny seeing you here at this time of day. Quite the coincidence indeed. I was just on my way to catch a train to the next town over. What about you, Tono-kun? Are you heading home from school early? No, I'll head home later. I'm getting on the same train you are, after all. Oh, are you skipping 5th period then? I resist the urge to point out that she's just as guilty of cutting class as I am. I'm not about to let Senpai wrest control of the conversation from me now. I'm skipping school. I'm much more curious about wherever it is you're going than my classes, Senpai. I see. Do you remember what I said in the infirmary? I swallow nervously. I need to choose my next words carefully. If I don't, Senpai will think I'm a nuisance and brush me aside. If I really mess up, I might even end up back in the infirmary. I'll say it one last time. As you've surmised, I'm going to investigate the vampire's whereabouts. It will be a perilous task devoid of any enjoyment. Please behave yourself and go back to school. No, I don't wanna. You told me not to get involved with vampires, but you never told me not to get involved with you. I stand my ground and stare right back at Senpai. I blurted out those words without thinking them through, but saying them has helped me reaffirm my own feelings. I'm much more worried about Ciel Senpai than I am about the problem posed by any vampires. I guess I just can't stand the thought of her going to investigate them all on her own. Getting involved with me means getting involved with vampires. That's just splitting hairs. You're being unfair. The Ciel senpai who's my upperclassman at school isn't the same as the Ciel senpai who works for the church. If they were, you wouldn't have come to my classroom. It's not like there are any vampires in there, are there? That may be true, but all I want to do is help my upperclassmen. I've got an ulterior motive for doing so, and yet I've ended up wrapped up in all this vampire extermination stuff. Honestly, it's a nuisance. If you had more normal problems, I wouldn't have to go to so much trouble. I put how I really feel right now into words. I know full well that I'm getting desperate, but if I don't make a stand, Senpai will definitely try and go it alone. I refuse to let her send me back to the infirmary. I'm staying with Senpai, come hell or high water. You're right, I really ought to think of the student me and the executor me as different individuals. If I lumped them together, I'd have to quit school tomorrow. Jeez, this is why you're so scary, Tono-kun. When your back's against the wall, you don't hesitate to strike at your opponent's weak point. Senpai lets out an exasperated sigh of resignation. So in other words, this means... so are you saying it's okay for me to come with you, Senpai? Yes, it was careless of me to let myself get spotted, so I'll consider today a special exception. I'll let you come along with me, but no more than that. I suppose there's no harm in letting my reckless underclassmen see just what a vampire nest is really like. Senpai! I don't know if it's because my feelings got through to her or not, but Senpai is once again smiling like she usually does. Yeah, she really isn't herself without her smile. However, before we go, I need to hear an apology from you. Do you even realize the severity of your mistake? What mistake? Does she mean last night's run-in with Arkwade? If she brings that up, I don't have any good way to explain myself. Your attempt at tailing me, it was abominable. Your footsteps and presence stuck out like a sore thumb. It's like you were screaming, please notice me. You're lucky it was me you were dealing with. If you tried that on Noel-sensei or one of the dead, you'd have woken up the next morning in a back alley. So please be a little more careful next time. I got scolded for my sloppy shadowing. It seems that's actually the main reason she's mad at me. She'd apparently planned on just giving me the slip earlier, but my attempt at tailing her was so careless that she couldn't resist calling me out on it. It's probably a bit late at this point to protest that I wasn't actually trying to tail her in secret. But, alright, I understand. I'll try harder next time. I answer Senpai with a wry smile on my face. She may be dauntingly severe in some ways, but Ciel Senpai really is a caring person at heart. Senpai and I board the train together and travel around 2 stops. At Kuchizuka Station, we catch a bus and ride it for 20 minutes. From the nearest bus stop, it's another 20 minutes on foot to our destination. Deep in the heart of this industrial area, far removed from the residential district, lies the quietly decomposing husk of a building. Senpai, is this? It's a vampire nest, or rather, it was. I'd heard about this place from one of the dead apostles I dealt with earlier, but it seems like it's been completely abandoned. An abandoned dwelling. In other words, a miss. To be fair, this seems like the sort of place that even a wild dog wouldn't want to live in, let alone a dead apostle. It's nothing more than a forgotten ruin that happens to be near the city. It must have been a pretty important hospital before it was abandoned. Even from my vantage point by the main gate, I can take a pretty good guess as to how sprawling it is inside. Grass is slowly encroaching on the buckling asphalt. Various parts of the ward visible in the distance appear to have collapsed. I wonder if it was a fire that originally put this place out of commission. Even if it was, there's far too stark a contrast between the more run-down parts of it and the areas that were less affected. Just to be safe, I'm going to go inside and check how contaminated it is. Whenever she says something like this, Senpai doesn't ask whether or not I'm coming with her. It's probably her way of making it clear that she's not forcing me to do any of this. It's all something I've selfishly decided to do on my own. I answer with a simple nod and follow after her. Trampling the weeds underfoot, we enter the grounds of the dilapidated hospital. The sky looks so high out here. With no tall buildings crowding around to block the view, there's nothing but vast blue sky stretching out in all directions. Its spotless brilliance is enough to hurt my eyes. There's still a lingering trace of the vampiric taint, but not enough to cause any harm. Given how large this hospital is, it must have been a major base for them before they abandoned it. Kinda like those catacombs, you mean? Yes, hospitals are easy facilities to make use of, and very valuable to dead apostles. Doubly so if they also happen to be the owners. We enter the abandoned hospital. Ciel-senpai carefully inspects each and every room. It's perfectly clear, both to me and Senpai, that there's nothing to be found here anymore. Even so, she's meticulously combing the place to ensure that there's nothing unusual lying around. It strikes a stark contrast to Arquade's cavalier attitude. Senpai, you mind if I ask you some questions? I figured you would at some point. Go on then. Just be sure not to get in my way. Alright, here goes. There are two types of vampires, and it's the dead apostle type that the church is after, right? And this dead apostle you've been chasing, the one that's made their nest in our city, what are they like? I can't go into detail, but there are your stereotypical dead apostle. They're the type that slowly infiltrates a city, spreading the tendrils of their influence. They represent a less direct threat than a vampire such as Vlav Archangel. I see. Like I thought, Senpai's original objective wasn't Vlav after all. He was just some outsider that happened to show up. She actually came here chasing after another vampire who has been nesting here for many years now. The same one Arquade is after. Is that so? So, what's their name? A pause. Finishing her fruitless search of yet another room, Senpai lets out a sigh. Roa. Michael Roa Valdemjong. I heard that back when he was still human, he served as a presbyter of the church. She speaks the name of her enemy. Roa. It's the same name that Arquade had mentioned. She said that he's a reincarnating vampire, among other things. What exactly that means, I'm not entirely sure. Ciel-senpai doesn't say any more on the topic. We continue to explore the abandoned hospital. Having examined every corner of the first and second floors, Senpai heads toward the third floor. As she does, let's say, hypothetically, Ciel-senpai starts talking to me, though it sounds like she's talking to herself. Let's say, hypothetically, that one day you suddenly find yourself thrust into the leading role of a horror movie. Without any explanation, you're told you'll be playing the villain, and as soon as the movie starts, you begin slaughtering all the other characters, non-stop, for an hour and a half. By the time it ends, the final victim count is easily in the thousands. Wait, don't go telling me a horror story in a place like this. There's no need to try and scare me, senpai. It's just a what if, so please let me finish. Tono-kun, let's say that on a whim, you go to a theater and watch that movie, the same horror movie in which that someone played the main part. When the movie ends, you glance at the neighboring seat, only to find them sitting there. They've crawled right out from the credits of the movie, still drenched in blood. He says, "Pleased to meet you, Mr. Someone. I've just come from the world of that movie. Oh, but don't worry, you've nothing to fear. I was simply playing the role of the killer in accordance with the script. I never would have imagined that I'd somehow be thrown out of the movie the minute it ended." How would you react to him? Would you welcome him because all he did was abide by the script? Would you denounce him because even a fictional villain is still a villain? Or would you indignantly demand that he go back inside the movie? In this situation, what is the decent human choice? I can't come up with an immediate answer. Her hypothetical is incredibly outlandish, and yet there's something strangely chilling about it. I can't even begin to think which option I'd choose. Senpai? Senpai has her back turned to me, unaware of her intention. I call out to her forbidding figure. Senpai lets out a chuckle and turns around with a self-deprecating smile on her face. Just kidding. I had a sudden urge to tease you, Toto-kun, and I figured it'd be a good way to kill some time. That was the plot of a horror movie I rented last night. It felt so incredibly real that I wanted to share that horror with you. Is that so? I'm not sure how I feel about you picking on me out of the blue like that, but the movie itself sounds interesting. That's a well-crafted meta-narrative. If you tell me the title, I'll go rent it as well. Of course, I'll be happy to once this case is all settled. We were talking long enough that we've now almost finished the investigation. We arrive on the third and final floor, where we can catch glimpses of the sky through holes in the crumbling roof. There. Oh, it looks like this is the last room. Unfortunately, no, fortunately, there's no trace of the dead apostle. It looks like this place was a total bust. Senpai's voice sounds a little more cheerful than it did before. She's probably relaxed a little now that she's completed her investigation and concluded that there's nothing dangerous here. I should go back now that the matter is settled. I want to go back now. Wait, what? We should go back now that the matter is settled, or we want to go back now that the matter is settled. Isn't that kind of the same thing? Or, well, I guess one says that we are going to go back, and one's like, well, we want to. But what? That's so ridiculous. 3, we can go back now that the matter is settled. I guess, maybe number 2? We want to go back? I see. Let's head back then, Senpai. Unsurprisingly, I'm pretty worn out. Even though it's still light out, hanging around an abandoned hospital like this gives me the creeps. Oh my, that doesn't sound like the Tono-kun who refused to throw in the towel, even back in that underground chamber. Well, the thing is, I was in so far over my head back then that all I could feel was surprise. Abandoned hospitals, on the other hand, are a staple of urban legends. They feel a lot scarier just because they hit closer to home. I see. I'd have you accompany me here at night. I missed my chance to see your face frozen in fear, Tono-kun. Senpai says something terrifying. It seems like she's still in a teasing mood. Even so, there's no denying that we're done here. Senpai agrees to my suggestion, and we quickly leave the abandoned hospital. I'm struck by the same thought I had on the way in. The sky out here really is vast and spotlessly clear. So nothing really happened there. It's just an empty building. By the time we make it back to Soya Station, it's already after 3 o'clock. I've ended up completely skipping afternoon classes. Even if I head back now, I won't be able to make it before final period is over. But I should at least go back and pick up my bag. How pathetic. Tormented by the fact that I skipped lunch, my stomach rumbles to signal its emptiness. Are you hungry, Tono-kun? Guilty as charged. I was on my way to the school store when I saw you leaving, so I ended up skipping lunch. Would you like to go get something to eat? There's a great place not far from here. Huh? I'm dumbfounded by my sudden good luck. Getting lunch at a restaurant means I'll be dining with Senpai. Talk about an unexpected windfall. Even if this is somehow a trap, I'll happily dive in head first. Or at least, I want to, but... no. I'm not that hungry. That's a lie. Ever since yesterday, I've had a ravenous appetite. But sadly, I don't have the means to eat out this month. Senpai said that it was a great place, so it could be one of those fancy restaurants with eye-popping prices. Though it breaks my heart, I must decline her offer. Oh, don't be like that. Come on, this one's on me. Let me act like an upperclassman and treat my helpful underclassman. It seems like Senpai saw right through me. Guess it's time for me to swallow my pride. Besides, how am I supposed to say no to that wonderful smile of hers? You got me. I'm actually so famished I feel like I'm about to pass out. Please take me to this wonderful restaurant. I'm begging you. I give in and prostrate myself before Ciel Senpai. Oh my, what a wonderfully honest response. Then allow me to pull out all the stops for the sake of my cute underclassmen. Perhaps pleased by my open reliance on her, Senpai briskly sets off toward the business district. There's a block over there with a bunch of small shops crammed into it. Maybe she really is taking me to some famous hole in the wall. This place serves only curry. Of course it is. It's a curry shop. Of course it is. Of course, I didn't even read that line. Holy shit. Of course it is. I'll say it one more time. This is, without a doubt, an authentic Indian curry shop. Oh, did we miss the lunch window? What a shame. No spicy chicken on the house then. Ciel Senpai frowns, looking thoroughly disappointed. Here, you can have this, Tono-kun. She hands me a loyalty card. The numerous stamps have reached the amazing, order any curry set for free mark. This is... I understand what she means by this, but I still ask out loud just to be sure. It's a voucher for a free meal. Help yourself. You can choose any set you like. I recommend the butter chicken. Spicy isn't necessarily better, especially for a beginner like you, Tono-kun. Yeah, you're totally right. Pretending not to notice how Senpai's fingers gravitate toward the 10 times spice set as I open the menu, I nod and confirm my order of the butter chicken set with the waiter. To my surprise, all Senpai orders is a single chai tea. Senpai, you're only ordering a drink? Shouldn't you, now that we've come this far, I feel like I have to act out the old cliche. No, I already ate a proper lunch. Plus, it'll be dinner soon, so if I ate now, I'd end up having 4 meals in one day. In other words, she's restraining herself and adhering to the average caloric intake of an ordinary high school girl. Man, in anime and visual novels, they always make the food look so damn good. The butter chicken was absolutely sublime. The curry sauce struck an exquisite balance between spiciness and sweetness, perhaps thanks to the butter. The naan was piping hot and soft, and simply biting into the dough made the umami permeate throughout my mouth. This restaurant is a gem. Curry Shop Messian. I'll have to remember that name. I'll tell Arihiko about it too. Except, as incredible as the food tastes, I can't give it the attention it deserves. Senpai is staring intently at the curry. She's like one of those ascetic monks meditating on top of a bed of nails. I can't savor the curry I've just scooped up with my spoon in peace while her eyes are boring into me like that. Senpai, do you want some? Trying to tempt her, I half-jokingly point the spoon in her direction. If Senpai wants some, I'll dish a bit onto one of the side plate. Well, if you insist. Whoa! With childish glee, Senpai wolfs down the curry that was on the spoon. It happened in the blink of an eye. Oh, I didn't mean the spoon. I was going to put some on a plate for you. Huh? I'm sorry. I was lured in. Yeah, I've landed a big catch, alright. The senpai has curled up in embarrassment. As far as I'm concerned, she doesn't have anything to apologize for. I've got to enjoy that delightfully rare side after all. I'm sorry, I just wasn't expecting you to share a whole plate. Just how stingy do you think I am, senpai? Alright, there you go. Here, have a piece of naan as well. I dish out some of the sauce onto one of the side plates, then help myself to another spoonful of what remains. Eat up, don't be shy. It's thanks to your repeated patronage that we can enjoy this meal after all. Besides, I don't think something like this counts as a snack. I see. I don't think that's true, but... Senpai takes a spoon from the basket and begins to timidly eat the butter chicken curry. Just look at that expression. When I see how happily she's smiling after only a single bite, I'm half tempted to order seconds. I feel like I could put away a number of bowls if it means I can keep looking at this smile. We've finished our meal. Senpai and I are still lounging around inside the restaurant, enjoying some free tea that the manager served us. They really seem to value their regulars. We've been making idle small talk about things that happened at school, when all of a sudden Senpai sits up straight. This seems like a good opportunity, so allow me to ask, why did you get involved with this case? Aren't you scared after everything you've been through? Or are you not worried because you have an ability that allows you to kill dead apostles? She gets right to the point. No, I'm scared. It's not like a soldier stops being afraid the minute they pick up a gun. No matter what weapon I may possess, it doesn't make it any less terrifying. If I had the option of running away, I definitely would. Those are my unvarnished feelings. I'd say I'm even more cowardly than the average person because I'm stuck seeing death all the time. So you do want to run away. Then why don't you? Why don't I? That's because I want this city to stay peaceful, because I want to lay the souls of the victims to rest, because I want to protect those close to me. All of those thoughts have crossed my mind, but none of them are the real reason why. I refuse to run away because I remember what I saw on that night. That's obvious. It's because you're giving it your all, senpai. With respect and gratitude in my voice, I reply as if the answer were the most obvious thing in the world. On that night, she fought all alone inside that glacial world when anyone else would have fled. Not for her own sake, but in order to protect people she'd never even met. While I only tried to save my own skin, she risked life and limb to protect everything that stood behind her. That's right. That image is so precious to me that it plays across my mind even when I'm falling asleep. Captivated as I was by her vigor, I couldn't help but weep at the tragic figure she cut as she dashed about with tears in her eyes. That's why I wanted to remember it, even if I'm nowhere near as strong as she is. I want to forever remember that courage which has gone unappreciated for so long. That will be my way of saying thank you. Because I'm giving it my all? Exactly. If someone's out there fighting even though they'll never get any recognition for it, how could I just turn my back and run away? And most importantly, she saved me. If Senpai hadn't reached out to me on the day I killed Arcade, I probably wouldn't be here right now. Most importantly, if you hadn't taken down Vlav, we'd all be dead right now. All I'm doing is trying to return the favor. I couldn't bring myself to tell her the real reason after all. It just felt too embarrassing. Nevertheless, it seems like my feelings of gratitude got across. But that doesn't change the fact that I'll only be slowing you down. I know that the enemy is already dead, and then in this fight, it's either us or them. But I can't bring myself to think like that. If my opponent in a fight looks human, and is more or less as intelligent as one, it's enough to make my mind lock up completely. I have to harden my heart. I can't let myself be this conflicted when I come face to face with a vampire. Yeah, I can't let myself just cower in fear. If I really want to help you, then I've got to steel my resolve and rid myself of these doubts. No, that's not something you need to change at all. You've got it all wrong. Senpai? My apologies. But please, stay as you are. I'm fine with the current you, however weak you may be. I think it's because you're always so conflicted that I want to protect you. Shoot, I'm so embarrassed and happy that I can't look her in the eye. Senpai is stirring her tea with her spoon, loudly clicking it against the side of the cup as though she's also trying to distract from the situation. 5 minutes pass in the blink of an eye, and our tea goes completely cold. Unable to bear it any longer, I desperately try and think of something to talk about. Right, Senpai. You're super strong. Do you practice martial arts or something? Like, you have so many weapons. Ugh, that was seriously the best I could come up with? I wouldn't call it a martial art per se, but I was taught basic survival skills. After that, I picked up a couple of specialized anti-vampire techniques. I can use black keys, barriers, and even sacraments to some extent. Probably. Is that so? All I can do is see things, but it seems like you've got all sorts of skills, Senpai. I try and laugh it off like an idiot. But, for some reason, it feels like the atmosphere has changed slightly. All you can do is see things, you say. I haven't heard any details about that yet either. You cut Vlav's arm off, but just how exactly did you manage it? How did I manage it? Well, I could easily just show her, but I don't want to take off my glasses here and see Senpai's death. I briefly tell her about my eyes and the lines. The mystic eyes of death perception. Mystic eyes that can grasp the concept of death. Unbelievable. Are they really that rare? I still think you're way more impressive than they are, though. It isn't simply a matter of rarity or power. This is closer to the relationship between magecraft and magic. I would sum up my black keys and scriptural weapons as things that, despite being supernatural in nature, cause physical phenomena that can be replicated with modern technology. It's not too different to if someone were to personally own fighter jets or an aircraft carrier. On the other hand, your mystic eyes cause a physical phenomenon that's impossible to replicate, even with modern technology. They do not lend to death so much as give form to it. That truly is something beyond mankind's abilities. Strictly speaking, humans have not yet attained knowledge of death. You are seeing something that has never been seen before. Senpai just said something strange. How could humans not know what death is? After all, death permeates the entire world. All humans die though. It's not something that we experience while alive. But death always comes for us, doesn't it? That is nothing more than the cessation of vital activity. When one of the contraptions we call humans ceases to be able to function, people colloquially refer to that as death. When a human dies, nothing is actually lost. On a micro level, there aren't any elementary particles that disappear. On a macro level, the death of an individual doesn't inflict any loss on the planet itself. But what your eyes see is different. it can bring an end to something while ignoring the causality of that action. You're basically disregarding the law of conservation of energy. Anything killed that way would be dead in the truest sense of the word. A presbyter once said to me that nothingness is something that doesn't yet exist in our universe. Supposing its existence allows us to explain many phenomena, but it is seen as something that must not exist. I solemnly nod as though this all makes perfect sense. Senpai just stares at me mercilessly. Sorry, that went completely over my head. Could you dumb it down for me a bit? In short, it is something beyond the imagination, a fantasy. It's not just uncommon, it doesn't exist anywhere. Though I suppose there are some exceptions. There are a handful of myths that refer to mystic eyes like yours, so there must have been a few holders in the past. But if you have eyes like that, then it explains how you managed to slice Flav. I'd been convinced it was your knife that was somehow special. So then, are those eyes hereditary? Did your father also have them, Tono-kun? No, he didn't. He was normal, or at least no one in the family had these eyes. I'm the only weird one. I told you that I was in an accident when I was a kid, right? These eyes are an after effect. An after effect? So you're telling me you weren't born with them? That's right. I only started seeing these lines 7 years ago. Senpai stares at me for a while, then gasps and stands up. It appears I've been operating under a false assumption. We've completed our investigation, so let's call it a day. Before I can even think of stopping her, Senpai grabs the receipt, settles our tab, and leaves the curry shop. And then comes right back in again. I forgot to mention something important. Tono-kun, please stand up for a second. Huh? I obediently get up off my chair. Senpai examines me from head to toe. I'll be going now, but I must ask you not to go out at night. You shouldn't go searching for vampires on your own just because you have those eyes. But I involuntarily let slip my hesitation. Not going out at night would mean breaking my promise with Arkwade. Tono-kun? No, yeah, I get it. I understand. I won't go out searching for vampires alone. Good, it's a promise then. Senpai smiles in satisfaction and heads for the exit, for real this time. Wait, Senpai, I just remembered something that I've been wondering about. Vampires have undying bodies, right? So could they, like, catch a cold? Impossible. A curse is one thing, but catching a human cold is utter nonsense. Dead bodies don't have immune systems after all. Yeah, that figures. Is that also the case for true ancestors? There doesn't exist anything that would affect a true ancestor, and we'd better hope it stays that way. Any virus strong enough to make their immune system kick into gear could easily spell the end of all mankind. By the way, why are you asking me this? Oh, no real reason. Well then, see you at school tomorrow, Senpai. If I ask any more questions, I risk stirring up a hornet's nest, so I just wave goodbye to Senpai. See you tomorrow. Yes, see you tomorrow. Have a nice day, Tono-kun. Senpai takes off, her shoes clattering as she disappears. Now then, a lot's happened, but I'd better head back to school too. I need to pick up my bag, then make it home to the mansion before the sun sets. An ordinary day like any other. Yeah, like what happened today? We explored an abandoned hospital and found nothing. For the record, I haven't gone back on my word. I may be searching for vampires, but I'm not doing it alone. Yeah, that's why he phrased it that way. Night has fallen, and the park is utterly deserted. My muttering, addressed to nobody in particular, fades away, swallowed by the darkness. Did you say something, Shiki? No, nothing. It doesn't concern you, so don't worry about it. Besides, as far as promises go, the one I made with Arkwade takes priority. I silently apologize to Senpai in my head. I don't like going behind her back, but I don't really have a choice given the circumstances. Alright, let's start looking for vampires. Where are we going tonight? I don't have any leads to follow up tonight. We'll just go for a walk around the city to see if we can spot any dead. With your eyes, you should be able to tell at a glance whether anyone passing by is alive or not. It'll be tough. Are you up for it, Shiki? Arquade's asking me to take my glasses off and walk around town. Taking them off makes me feel nauseous, even when there's nobody else around. The strain of navigating the crowds in the city center without them is probably going to be a hell of a lot worse. But if she asks me whether I'm up for it with that look on her face, how can I say no? Of course I am. That's what it means to work together, right? Yeah, I'll be counting on you, partner. Oh, but if at any point it becomes truly unbearable, make sure you stop right away. Your eyes are special after all. You should be careful with them. With Arquade leading the charge, we set off into the night. As soon as I commit myself to taking off my glasses, I feel a strange sense of enthusiasm well up inside me. We'll start with the shopping district and go from there. I have to root out and dismember as many vampires as I can. Alas, despite my eagerness, I end up with nothing to show for it. We went to the shopping district first, and from there we hit up the back alleys, the business district, and even the side of an old factory, but in the end, we didn't manage to find even a trace of the dead. Now that Roa, their sire, has been defeated, they're probably all on high alert. They've holed themselves up in their chambers, wherever those may be, in fear of Arquade. That means neither of us will be able to find them. However, they can't hide forever. If they don't eat, they'll revert to being ordinary corpses. To live is to take risks. That applies to all of us. What will come first? Will they show themselves, or will we let our guard down? This battle of endurance will probably drag on for a while. It's anticlimactic, but I'll take that over more casualties. And above all, I'm genuinely happy that I get to spend more time patrolling the city with Arquade. Man, tonight was a total waste of time. I got all worked up for nothing. I take a seat on the bench, giving my lingering headache a chance to subside. With each breath of cool nighttime air, it feels like a poison that's built up in my brain freezes over a little more. Thanks to that, my dizziness and nausea are receding, albeit slowly. Yeah, you're right. I still had fun though. You spent the whole time complaining as usual, but I had no idea that such pointless stuff could be so fun. I guess I've got to give the dead apostles credit for not spoiling the mood. As thanks, I'll mercilessly smash them to pieces the next time we meet. Despite her menacing words, Arquade is in a good mood. As I sit here on the bench, she's prancing around in circles in front of me. What's she doing? She's like a child that's just been allowed outside for the first time in their life. Or a long captive prisoner celebrating their newfound freedom. That's the impression I get, at least. Well, I'm glad someone's enjoying themselves. Despite my snide comments, my eyes are riveted to Arquade. I've got to admit, if what I feel for Senpai is deep affection, then what I feel for Arquade approaches love. I'm just as taken with Arquade as I am with Senpai. I initially thought I was only feeling guilty about the fact that I'd killed her, but that excuse has started to sound pretty hollow. I recognize how foolish I am. I want to help Senpai, but at the same time, I'm yearning for a vampire, for her enemy. I must be crazy. Thinking rationally, I know that I should keep my distance from her, but on an instinctual level, I've been completely bewitched by the beauty of this woman in white. Even though it drove me mad with lust once before and resulted in me committing such a cruel and gruesome act. I shake my head and chase away those images. My nausea is back, but at least it's helped calm me down. It's reminded me that I don't deserve to spend time with Arquade like this. Arquade, you seem to be in high spirits, but how are you feeling? You were sneezing yesterday, right? You sure you didn't catch a cold? A cold? You mean like a fever caused by a weakened immune system? There's no way I'd catch something like that. Hey, why do you want to know anyway? Wait, don't tell me you're worried about me. Arquade stops in front of the bench, leans over and peers into my face. I didn't mean it like that. I was just wondering if the wounds I gave you had already healed or not. Her proximity and feminine scent are almost enough to send me over the edge. I look away to try and hide my true feelings. The wounds I got from you won't heal that easily. What happened yesterday is something else. I guess it probably had something to do with the fact I was altering the way my body operates. You see, when I'm not in battle, I try to make myself more human to match you. Huh? Why would you try to make yourself more human? Why indeed? Laughing, Arquette skips away from me again. She's like a dancing, fluttering butterfly. Yeah, no way it was a cold. I mean, Senpai also said it'd be impossible for a vampire to catch one. Uh-oh. You fucked up, Shiki. I feel like there's something dangerous about her going to such pointless lengths to become more human, but if she's recovering well, then I'll just let it lie. Relieved, I look up and... By senpai, you mean that girl? Ugh! Arquette's scowling face is right in front of me, even closer than it was earlier. What's gotten into you all of a sudden? What do you mean that girl? Don't try and play dumb. You know exactly which girl I'm talking about. The one who fought Vlav. I knew it. She's been trailing after you all day, hasn't she? No, that's not... I don't dare admit that I'm the one who spent the whole day trailing after her. Well, you know, she taught me a bunch of stuff about vampires. I mean, come on, what's the harm? You're both doing the same thing. Now that Ro has been defeated, there's no reason for you to be at each other's throats, right? I don't need a reason. We're just not compatible. Listen, it doesn't matter if you're a true ancestor or a dead apostle. If you're a vampire, then executors are your enemy. I told you before how insidious those guys are, didn't I? Don't tell me you forgot already, you idiot. Yeah, I remember. Let me see. She explained this before back at the hotel. They're a group created for the sole purpose of exterminating vampires. Heresy hunters who execute the Lord's teaching in his name. That is Senpai's true identity, an executor of the church. Apparently, the main reason dead apostles act covertly is because they're terrified of being discovered by them. They're a vampire's natural enemy, right? I mean, these nighttime patrols were originally Senpai's job. Wait, hold on. What does this make you? Are you like a traitor to the vampire world? I guess I'd say that to other vampires, I'm more like the wrath of God. Whatever. Most executors are just a bunch of cockroaches. I don't care how many of them there are crawling around. But she's an exception. Arquette is seriously annoyed. It's like she doesn't even want to say Ciel's name. What a mess. I knew they didn't get along, but I had no idea it was this bad. Well, what do you think, Shiki? Huh? I'm asking what you think of her. I don't mind what you get up to, Shiki, as long as it doesn't involve her. If you start developing feelings for her, I won't forgive you. Arquette's red eyes began to shimmer. Whoa, slow down a second. She's seriously out for blood right now. What do you mean you won't forgive me? Senpai is my upperclassman at school. She's always helping me out, and she even saved me when we were fighting against Vlav. I'm sure even you'd take a liking to her if you tried talking to... Absolutely not. I despise her, and she's got it out for me too. She's just pulling the wool over your eyes, Shiki. Don't you get it? All members of the burial agency are battle-hungry maniacs just waiting for the first opportunity to pounce. Think, did you even know who she was at the start? Or did she toy with you by pretending to be an ordinary person, like she always does? I can't deny that Senpai hid her true identity. But she had no other choice. To protect people from vampires, she has to keep her very existence a secret. Since her prey hides by pretending to be human, she can't reveal her presence without risking tipping them off. Besides, even knowing who Ciel Senpai really is, I still think of her as my upperclassman. I enjoyed having lunch with her, shooting the breeze with her and Arihiko, and passing the time in the tea ceremony room together. In fact, I had so much fun that I almost wish I'd never found out about Senpai's true identity. I see. Shiki, whose side are you on, hers or mine? Her question drips with hostility and reproach. I guess Ciel Senpai is Arquette's sworn enemy. That's why she's looking at me with those narrowed eyes. Because the moment I take her enemy's side, I will also become her enemy. I'm sure you'd never make the mistake of taking her side, but you need to break it off with her. If by some chance you do end up getting friendly with her, I'll kill you. Arquette. I'm at a loss for words. As far as I'm concerned, you're the one I can't get out of my mind. Senpai is precious to me. Well, I guess we'll probably have to go with option 2, right? Or maybe not. Maybe if we didn't say, if we said something else, she probably would have just killed us right there. It would have been like a dead end or something. I think back to that rainy night. After I killed Arkwade and selfishly resolved to die, she found me and brought me back to my senses. She saved my life. I've saved you a bunch of times too, though. I think back to the fight against Flav. I remember how she fought all alone in the midst of that hellish blizzard, making the righteous choice even though she knew she'd never be rewarded for it. She protected the city. Okay, but I protected, like, so much more? Why'd she sound like a valley girl there? I protected, like, so much more than she did. I think back to the way she smiled back at the curry shop. She told me that it was fine to be afraid, to be worried. I could treat you to lunch too, though, you know. Ah! Would you just shut up for a second? Wait, how did you know I was going to talk about lunch? Have you finally started reading my mind? I mean, you were mumbling something about going to a curry shop together. Ugh, crap. Was I thinking out loud? Hey, you're the one who hasn't given me a clear answer. You can't weasel your way out of it by going off on some cool monologue. What do you mean, cool monologue, you idiot? You'd already have your answer by now if you didn't keep butting in. Oh? Go ahead then. I'm all ears. For crying out loud. Listen, Senpai is someone precious to me. If not for her, I wouldn't be here right now. But... Respecting someone and liking someone are different things. If you're going to force me to pick a side, I'm going to pick yours, by a wide margin. I can't believe I just said that, but there's no way I can deny my own feelings. I mean, just having Arkwade with me tonight was enough to make the pain in my eyes bearable. By a wide margin? For some reason, I feel like I'm allowed to be myself when I'm with her. I can actually relax. Though, right now, I might be a little too relaxed. I have to actively stop myself from embracing her. In short, what I feel is similar to the lust you'd feel toward your lover. What? What's wrong? What's going on? Arkwade had suddenly hunched over, her back quivering violently, before abruptly thrusting both hands in the air and letting out this bizarre squeal. Alright, I hate her guts, but after hearing you say that, I think I can let her be. I feel like my emotions are about to explode, so I'm going home. What? Wait, you're leaving? Just like that? Hold on, we're meeting here again tomorrow, right? Definitely. I'll be waiting here tomorrow, and I'll be prettier than ever, by a wide margin, just like you said. Wait, what? No, that's not what I meant by a wide... I don't even get to finish correcting her. Arkwade took off like a shot. I hope we didn't choose wrong here. Prettier than ever? I thought she didn't care about humans. I guess I can't really make fun of her for not acting like a vampire the way I usually do. After all, the mere sight of that vampire's smile made me blush so hard I had to bury my face in my hands. Alright, I can't just stand here grinning all night. I better head home too. It's almost midnight. I need to get back to the mansion while I still have the energy to do so. That was something, alright. I mean, hopefully she won't kill us now. Uh-oh. The raised mast of steel is swung down without a shred of hesitation. A beaten-up relic of a weapon that has been so worn down by years of use that it'd be impossible to sharpen again, no matter how much one tried to whet it. At the tip of this weapon is a wide blade, over 50 centimeters from edge to edge. That blade, which weighs an entire ton, is propelled by nothing but its own weight. Crunch. Its bone-crushing force is a sight to behold. With all that weight behind it, the dull blade turns the skulls of its scampering prey to mincemeat. Huh? What? Anyone would be incredulous after witnessing something like that with their own eyes. What is happening? What just happened? They still haven't been able to grasp the answer to either of those questions. This place is supposed to be safe after all. Their lives shouldn't be in peril here. The city has become far too dangerous for vampires. They're caught between the princess of the true ancestors on one side and the executors on the other. As their executioners close in, their chances of escape dwindle by the second. They'd all made a deal that they'd be allowed to escape to a new land, so long as they upheld their side of the bargain, and had grown complacent as a result. What's with the slack-jawed response? Isn't this your cue to start making a mad dash for the exits? Holding her weapon in one hand, the woman in the habit cocks her head to the side. She is surrounded by a crowd of 13 people, each and every one of them a pathetic fugitive vampire, who have gathered here because they believe the nun's words. I even went to the trouble of preparing a room big enough for all 14 of you. This honestly feels like a bit of a letdown, you know? Grumbling, the nun shakes her head in disappointment. Still, this is a pretty good turnout for a hoax she cobbled together on the fly. Something like this would never have worked back where she came from. She'd have been lucky to get 2 or 3 of them at most, even if she spent an entire month carefully laying the bait. Instead, she managed to net 14 of them. It isn't just the urban fabric that's simple here, but the people themselves. She can't help but laugh. Whoops, I just squished one, so I guess that makes 13 of you animals. That's an unlucky number. Guess I'd better squish another one. Ooh, her 2-meter-long weapon swings through the air. In the blink of an eye, the halberd comes crashing down on the head of a young man who didn't move out of the way in time. His skull splits with the same hollow thunk that smashing a rotten pumpkin would make. Eek! A human shriek rings out. For the most part, the men and women gathered here are in their early 20s. The screaming ripples outwards, starting with those who were closest to their new blood-stained comrade, who they'd never even met before tonight. Gazing with satisfaction at the scene, the nun slowly walks forward. My oh my, you may all be good little boys and girls, oblivious to danger, but it seems that the reaction at a time like this is the same no matter which country you're from. You're like rats scampering around the kitchen in the dead of night. The instant the lights come on, you all scurry to save yourselves. After all, if you get caught in a mousetrap like this poor soul, I'll crush you under my heel. A third spurt of blood spatters the night. The lump of iron sets its sights on a nearby young man and plummets toward his head. This time, it swung with much greater force. His skull is smashed to smithereens, but the blade keeps going, plowing through his neck and finally coming to rest in the middle of his torso. Yoo-hoo, attention please, One-san is gonna do some pest control, and it really pissed me off if you got the wrong idea here, so let me just explain what's going on up front. First, about this room, I've erected a barrier around it, so escape is off the table. If you try jumping out the window, you'll melt, so be careful, okay? Second, about me, under no circumstances will I let any of you vermin off the hook, so don't waste your time begging me to spare you. Finally, about you guys, you can beg for help all you like, but if you want to be saved, don't pray to me, pray to God. If he really exists, and you lot really deserve to be spared, I'm sure he'll cause some miracle and let you escape. That's how the world's meant to work anyway. With a heave, the blood-smeared nun dislodges her halberd from the pile of flesh. At this, the panic of the assembled youths reaches a fever pitch. They scramble in all directions, trying to escape the nun, but their legs are unsteady. An anti-vampire barrier has already been erected here. It wouldn't have any effect on a real human, but for a low-ranking dead apostle, it feels like being stuck at the bottom of the ocean. Unable to even run away, their bodies continue to weaken by the second. Why? I paid what you asked, didn't I? So why are you killing me? Stop! Not my head! No, not my legs either! It hurts! Why does it hurt so much? No, stop! If you pull on that, you'll gut me like a fish! No way! You're kidding, right, Sensei? You said you'd help me, right? That you'd at least spare me? You said that you'd let me off the hook if I was a good boy. The smile hasn't faded from her face. Sticky red threads cling to her halberd as she hoists it aloft again, then brings it crashing down on the skull of her next target. Her breathing is frenzied. The scream wrung from the victim of her blow seems to have driven her wild with excitement. Hurry up and get that door open or we're dead! Get a fucking move on, you motherfucker! We can handle that bitch if we can just get out of here! I can't! I touched the door and now my fingers are melting! No, my elbow's gone now too! I'm melting! Stop! Help me please, God help! How could you? I prayed, I put my hands together and prayed like I was supposed to! You murderer! How the fuck are you a nun? The nun with bloodshot eyes, who was just about to slice open the youth's defenseless back and rip out their still dripping spine, suddenly stops. Huh? What are you even talking about? I'm a murderer. Do you even know what murder means? You seriously think that killing vermin like you counts as murder? That you can call yourself a human after you've preyed on so many of them yourself? Stop. I'm sorry. I apologize. So please. Jesus Christ. Man, give these voice actors a raise. Holy shit. God. They really go out of their way to make you feel bad for the vampire she's killing. His screams reverberate throughout the entire room. The 5 vampires that remain can do nothing but cower and watch the show unfolding before them. The nun releases her grip on the spear and begins to meticulously and ruthlessly execute her downed prey. First, she uses a sacrament to restore his sense of pain. That done, she pins his eyelids in place with nails so that he cannot look away. She then removes his clothes, and once he's fully naked, she starts to peel back his skin, exposing his innards. Jesus Christ. She's really enjoying this a little bit too much. One by one, she gouges out his organs with a black key. Of course, each strike inflicts a lethal dose of pain. Once she's done with his organs, she rips off his nose and ears. God, when her prey sees what he's become, he begs her to just kill him. Finally, she punctures a hole in his skull and fills it with holy water. To vampires, holy water is like sulfuric acid. The brain shouldn't have a sense of pain, but this liquid, which has been purified by baptism, envelops her prey with an unimaginable agony and drives him insane. The product is a broken record, capable only of repeating the words, "Kill me, kill me, kill me." Phew. She lets out a sigh that'd make the devil himself tremble. The nun hefts her spear once more, and with a heave-ho, obliterates the broken record. My bad. He just said something so hilarious that I got a little carried away. But don't worry, everyone. I've had my fill now, so I'm afraid I'm going to half-ass dealing with the rest of you. You'll have to excuse me for cutting some corners. The nun sweetly flashes them a flirtatious smile. This is the final straw. The remaining prey start shrieking and punching and kicking the walls, even as the barrier begins to melt their hands and feet. They scream with every fiber of their beings, begging to be released. No, please don't kill me! Don't kill me! Please don't kill me! Oh God! Please, I'll do anything, so please spare me. Just me. I'll go back. I mean it this time. I'll go back. Help me. Mom. Wait, I haven't eaten anyone yet. I wasn't even a vampire until these guys attacked me yesterday. I haven't even had a chance to live it up yet. So why is this happening? One rodent left. The nun takes a moment to rest, no doubt exhausted by her hard work. The lone survivor takes this opportunity to address a question to her defenseless figure. Hey, why? Why us? Excuse me? We're just small fry, bottom-tier monsters who would have died of starvation if you'd simply ignored us for a few more days. An enforcer like you doesn't need to go out of her way to pick up trash like us. So then why? Why would you give us hope of salvation only to kill us? Why go around instilling fear in us one by one? Aren't executors supposed to be efficient and only go after the big game? Are you even still human? The nun is taken aback by the vermin's unexpected outburst. She's legitimately surprised. Is it because her prey has, in his final moments, demonstrated an almost human nobility? No. Jeez, the weak prey on the weak, isn't that obvious? She's surprised because he asked her something that would be obvious to any human. Huh? Why would I fight someone who's stronger than me? I'm weak, so I only pick on those even weaker than me. I mean, that's simply common sense, right? Not just for humans, but for any living being. Then you didn't gather us here because we're vampires, but because... Yep, I just wanted some punching bags I could take my stress out on guilt-free. I mean, take a look around. Isn't it obvious? I can't believe it. You guys really are rotten to the brain. Or is that skull of yours just filled with lead? It is, isn't it? Why else would you be so dense? That's why God didn't save you, you know? The final blow comes hurtling down. The nun's halberd decapitates her prey in the blink of an eye, ending his life before the pain could even register. Man, Noelle is fucked up. I didn't realize just how fucked up she was. The nun cleans up the remains, leaving no trace of the 14 bodies that had been strewn around the room, and heads outside. She tosses her blood-soaked halberd to the floor with a dejected look on her face, her excitement from earlier nowhere to be found. With lifeless eyes, she lets out a long, slow sigh. It was an incredibly melancholy sigh, almost like her soul was leaving her body. Saddled with rounding up the small fry, eh? That's a lackey for you. Bet you're used to getting the drudge work, ain't you? Huh? Hearing someone call out to her from behind, the nun hurriedly picks her halberd back up. Though she excels in dealing with enemies weaker than her, she stands no chance against anyone as strong as, or stronger than herself. She can't help but imagine the worst scenario, and because of this personality trait, she always puts herself down, preventing her from achieving her true potential. That's more or less exactly what's happening now. She hasn't even seen them yet, but the mere thought of someone she doesn't know suddenly getting involved is enough to wreck her confidence. Huh? Why the hell are you shaking in your boots after you whacked all those fuckers? Calm down, fat ass. It's me, your boss, aka your god. Acting Presbyter Mario? The nun's shoulders slump in relief, and she lowers her halberd. She doesn't relax just yet, though. She understands that she's still in a precarious situation. This was a totally legitimate subjugation operation to smoke Roa out. We need to first exterminate the foot soldiers who gathered the blood that sustained him. Yeah, I get it. You don't have to tell me. I've been watching this game from the beginning. I already know the score. But man, you really went ham. I'll pretend I didn't see you offer those dead apostles a shot at redemption. Each executor's got their own particular flavor of murder and all. What I can't ignore is how many you killed. Looked like some of them weren't even totally finished turning yet either. I stand by my actions. People like that are even worse than vampires. That girl chose to work with them despite being human, making her responsible for increasing the number of victims. She got what was coming to her. Oh yeah? That's a pretty cold-blooded decision for a chicken shit like you. You're just gonna kill any human that gets involved with vampires, huh? Really setting my mind at ease here. If I may ask, why are you here, Acting Presbyter? I have maintained regular contact, and I have permission to act independently, don't I? Yeah, the Sacrament Assemblies and the Burial Agency care not to tread on each other's toes. As Ciel's partner, you and I were on equal footing. What do you mean, were? Executor Ciel is cutting you loose, told me to come pick your ass up as soon as I could. So, them's the breaks. You're my problem now, but your performance sucks, and you've got more than a few screws loose. I'm not dumb enough to use a gun that might go off in my face. The second we're done dealing with shit here, I'm carting you off to a monastery. Get your affairs in order while you still have time. The monastery. An institution for those among the faithful who wish to withdraw from the earthly world and live communally under the teachings of the Church. Just as the Vatican constitutes the smallest country on Earth, it could be said that each monastery represents an independent world in its own right, sealed off from the rest of society. Nuns who pledge to spend the remainder of their lives inside the walls become members of the self-contained collective. Cut off from the outside world, they live out their days upholding the ideals of purity, obedience, and freedom from material desires, as benefits children of the Heavenly Father. For those who knock willingly on the doors of the monastery, it is a worthy life. But for those who do not wish to be sealed away in this cloistered world, being sent to the monastery is akin to torture. Due to her peculiar circumstances, the only path not denied to Noelle is that of an executor. As such, the re-education curriculum she would face at the monastery would be that of an executor. While she'd be able to endure the harsh training once before in her youth, she knows there's no chance she'd be able to do so again as an adult. But more importantly, if she's sent to the monastery, her body will be inspected. For executors, remaining pure doesn't involve refraining from relations with the opposite sex so much as preserving the immaculateness of the human body. Considering her current state, that examination is something that she must avoid at all costs. Wait, please! I've always tried my best, and there should be no problems with my track record as an executor. You can't just ship me off to the monastery without a good reason. That's tyranny. Huh? I don't give a flying fuck how hard you tried. You're mediocre at best. Listen, this ain't some 9-to-5 desk job. It's the front lines of a battle to the death. If you're incompetent, or even competent but just unextraordinary, you're nothing but dead weight. There's no place in this world for people without any talent. It's time for you to grow up and get your head out of the clouds. How fucking old are you anyway? She bites her tongue before she can make a rebuttal. An intense hatred of a kind she didn't even experience during her cleanup a moment ago wells up in her chest, but she quickly swallows it again. Physically, this brat is weaker than she is. He's just a 12-year-old kid after all. She could make mincemeat of him with a single swing of her halberd. But he's also incredibly well connected, enticingly so. As the boy says, if a mediocre person like her wants to rise above the rank and file, she has no choice but to ingratiate herself with those connections. But I cannot leave Executor Ciel to her own devices. Her behavior is extremely suspicious. Not only has she stopped searching for Roa, but she's also attempting to ditch her partner and become a lone operative. I believe this could be dangerous. You are aware of her history, aren't you, Acting Presbyter? She's Quincy. I'm not the one you should be trying to lock up right now. You're talking about how she's a pseudo-vampire. Give it up. I'm painfully aware. It's fine. She is who she is. Doesn't matter to her if she has to work alone or go against her superiors. She'll kill Roa no matter what it takes. That's the only thing she cares about after all. For someone who's constantly swearing, his tone was surprisingly mature. There was a faint note of resignation in the boy's voice. Enough! Just pack your bags and be on standby. Your termination notice should show up in a day or two. Don't go causing any shit I gotta clean up in the meantime, you hear me? We don't pay goons to think, so just shut the fuck up and follow your orders to the letter. After delivering his final warning, the young boy takes his leave. The bloodstained nun is left alone in the back alley. After checking that the boy is definitely gone, she raises the weapon in her hand high above a discarded steel girder before bringing it crashing down with as much force as she can muster. What's with that brat? Where does he get off running his mouth like that? You're just a kid. Don't you fucking dare talk to an adult like that. The sound doesn't fade away after the first hit. Her curses, punctuated by the crash of metal on metal, echo through the alley a total of 8 times. The girder, which had weathered all sorts of abuse in the past, is now nothing more than a twisted wreck. It wasn't the only one who'd gotten bent out of shape. Panting heavily, she releases her grip on the halberd. It's only natural she'd be exhausted after flailing it about as hard as she did. She doesn't actually possess the strength necessary to wield it in the first place. She'd never been able to hit anything with it if she didn't activate the sacrament of weight reduction it carries for every swing. But in her emotional frenzy, she swung it without using that sacrament even once. The woman smiles coldly at her own despair. It wouldn't be surprising if she shredded her own arm muscles while thrashing around like that. What the fuck am I even doing? I'm not like that monster. There's no way I could swing this lump of metal around with nothing but my own strength. Even so, her anger doesn't subside. The situation has changed for the worse. Even though she knows she should cool her head and draw up a new plan, her heart won't stop racing, as if to make a bad situation worse. Or rather, because the situation is so bad, a nightmarish convulsion takes hold of her. She doubles over, trying to withstand the pain coming from inside her. Kneeling on the floor, she claws at the dirty soil with her fingers and tries to cling to her current self. The nausea and chills penetrate deep into the marrow of her bones. She's never experienced it firsthand, but she assumes this is how morning sickness feels, except the child gestating in her womb definitely isn't human. I've got to hurry. I've got to kill that vampire. I've got to find Roa and kill him before I break, but 2 days? I have just 2 days? But maybe she doesn't even have that long. The weak-willed part of herself whimpers. She's curled up so tightly that it looks like her back's about to burst. She clamps a filthy hand over her mouth, holding back the thing that threatens to spill from her stomach. It's okay. God is watching over me. I've been a good girl. He'll definitely save me for sure. I haven't done anything bad, so... I'll kill some more vampires tonight. I'll kill some more vampires tomorrow. If I do that, I'll be saved. I'll definitely be saved. The revenge I've been chasing for 13 long years will finally be complete. Yeah, that's right, Noelle. You've become an executor. You became stronger for this. You're not going to let some brat or that bitch tell you what to do. She forces her cold, trembling body to stand up. A twisted smile plastered across her face. The nun lifts her halberd, using nothing but her own brute strength, and leaves the site of her one-night slaughter behind her. It's midnight. In the dead of night, while everyone else is asleep, I tiptoe back to my room. I've already grown accustomed to sneaking out and back again during the night. I change into my pajamas and get into bed. As soon as I do, I'm overcome by a sudden drowsiness. My body isn't all that tired, but I guess my brain needs a break after I went overboard using my mystic eyes. I remove my glasses, place them on the bedside table, and close my eyes. Wait, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Tonight, I'll surrender myself to sleep. Biting back on the disconcerting feeling of weightlessness that creeps up on me as I fall asleep, I release my hold on all the thoughts clamoring to keep me awake. Or at least, I'm trying to. What's gotten into me? I kick off the blankets to get out of bed. My body's still too restless for some reason. I can't get to sleep. My brain is desperate for rest, but my body won't let it. This is like a mild form of torture. There isn't much else I can do, so I wander over to the conservatory. If I turned on the lights in my room, there's a chance Hisui or Kohaku-san would notice. The lights in the conservatory, on the other hand, are only visible from outside the mansion. I pluck a book at random off my shelf. Just like the last few nights, I'll lose myself in its pages until I start feeling sleepy. The year was 1989. I was born the child of a shopkeeper deep in the French countryside. I inherited my mother's Far Eastern features, and so the entire time I was growing up, I never quite felt like I belonged in the town I lived in. Despite this, the townspeople were always cheerful and accepted me with open arms. In order to reciprocate their warmth, I spent my days living positively and honestly. I helped my father, I went to school, and I dreamt of the future. I was also a little worried about how I seemed to be developing faster than the other children. But I never questioned that it was simply the hand I'd been dealt, and assumed that this blessing was something utterly unremarkable. At least, that's how I lived the precious short years leading up to my 12th birthday. It came to me suddenly. It would happen when I was playing with my friends. For no particular reason, I'd feel the desire to snap their slender necks. It would happen when I saw a weary-looking beggar by the side of the road. I'd feel the urge to gleefully stab their malnourished stomach. Yeah, I think this definitely isn't Ciel's backstory. The impulses came without any warning, and they didn't follow any kind of pattern. Whenever I came to my senses, the thoughts would always be there. And just as I was about to act on them, I'd suddenly remember my own name. When I did, I'd run as fast as I could, tears welling up in my eyes, covering both my face and the scream threatening to spill from my throat with my hands. I was healthy, my memories were vivid, I didn't despise anyone. And yet, whenever I was confronted with something I had the power to destroy, I couldn't resist wanting to give it a try. Whenever that urge struck me, my face was always twisted into a grin. The world outside was terrifying. People were terrifying. I was terrifying. This, ever-increasing glee was frightening. But I couldn't confide in anyone, not about something like this. With each passing day, I grew more and more reclusive. I remained level-headed until the end. Could I have developed a split personality? Could someone else's soul have taken up residence in my body? I didn't believe in unscientific things like that. I came to a conclusion. I decided that these impulses of mine were just the same fleeting destructive impulses that everyone feels occasionally. Like how you might lash out at your father when he comes to wake you up after you've stayed up late the night before. Or how you get irritated if you are walking down the street after it had just rained, and a car drove through a puddle and splashed water on you. My impulses were just those tiny split-second flare-ups of anger taking shape in my heart and controlling me. I can't speak for anyone else, but it seemed like I was the sort of person who couldn't oppose my own heart. The way things were headed, I was sure that I would do something that couldn't be undone. The only option left was to shut myself in my room. I had no choice but to spend my days without seeing anyone, without doing anything. If I did that, there'd be nobody for me to get angry at. There'd be nothing for me to resent. So it's like the Far Side routes in the original Tsukihime where Shiki just shuts himself up in his room all the time. Except that proved to be a mistake. I should have had more faith in God. I should have sought counsel with a priest, rather than hiding in fear from my own nature. During the time I spent locked away in the cage that was my room, my heart was slowly ground down, until finally it hit a tipping point. On that day, I had been completely replaced. Then, I felt a prickle of thirst, Understandable, really. I slowly dragged my weakened body out of my room for the first time in over a month. My parents, who had been relaxing in the living room, rushed over to me. My father spoke to me with care and worry in his voice, while my mother just smiled at me with tears in her eyes. I killed them both. It was almost disappointingly easy. Feeble as I was, I sank my teeth into my parents' necks and hungrily gulped down their blood. After sucking up 2 lives worth of blood, I stood up. Marvelous. This body is most talented yet. Okay, well maybe it was... Okay, that's right, yeah. Ciel was taken over by Roa, so I think that's what this is. Because I was about to say, like, this doesn't really... I mean, the only reason I was saying it's not Ciel is because I'm like, I mean, she doesn't want to kill people, but, well, then, you know, of course Roa wants to kill people. It was my voice, but one I'd never heard before. With their crimson blood still clinging to the corners of its mouth like lipstick, the body that had once been mine embraced itself. Just how lucky can one get? Ordinarily, I decided on which vessel I will be reborn into in advance based on 2 criteria. Firstly, they should be in a local position of power. Secondly, they should be from a family that possesses special talents. The first condition is the truly essential one, while the second is nothing more than a bonus. My first task is to always seek out a lineage that meets that condition, and establish them as a transfer destination. Unfortunately, my previous incarnation was destroyed by the princess before I could make my final decision. As a result, I was forced to conduct a hasty and incomplete reincarnation, relying solely on astrology. That was how I ended up with this body, the child of a middle-class family of unremarkable social standing. With this starting hand, it had been difficult to take control of the town as a human. Add in the fact that I only had a few years before the princess found me, and it seemed nearly impossible. But I did not lose heart. On the contrary, I felt a flash of delight. When weighing whether to opt for lineage or talent, I had always chosen lineage. As a result, I had never come across a truly outstanding body. But this time was different. The strength of this body's magic circuits and the amount of magical energy it was capable of producing were head and shoulders above those of an ordinary mage. Even mages at the top of their field would look like rusted-out clunkers when compared to this body. I sneered at how materialistic my previous selves had been. I'd had my priorities completely backwards. Power and influence can be obtained with time, but a truly outstanding body, a natural-born gem, is a miracle only the Lord can produce. After reincarnating times, I had finally hit upon the truth. After I'd awoken, I surreptitiously transformed this town into a necropolis, as naturally as water slowly carves a path through the earth. In contrast to the haphazard methods I'd employed before, my new self did it very gently, careful never to spill too much blood at once. Carefully, I took control of the town over the course of a single night, without letting a single human escape, but while still avoiding my unnecessary killing, I painstakingly constructed a castle of the highest caliber. First, in one smooth motion, I spread an even layer of the cream of despair all over the pure white canvas of the cake. Then, little by little, with a mocking smile plastered across my face, I gladly embellished it with jams, jellies, and meat. It felt like a waste of time and effort to me, but so be it. The reincarnated consciousness that constitutes me cannot exist on its own. I am nothing more than knowledge and a directive. My personality is reconstructed with each generation, molded by the character and values nurtured in the body of the host. Even though I become the owner of the body, its thought patterns and critical abilities do not change entirely. So, they don't completely become Roa, they kind of are, but also are still kind of themselves at the same time. That's kind of horrifying, honestly. So it is technically still Ciel, but a twisted version of Ciel, like Ciel Alter, I guess. Which is to say, though my body may have belonged to the reincarnated me, my consciousness was still mine. I was still fully aware and could remember everything I did. As I slept, I was forced to bear witness to the nightmare my own self had perpetrated. That's why I could remember it. I could remember the sensation of biting into my parents' necks. I could remember how, day after day, one by one, I would defile the souls of the townspeople who had been kind to me, slowly dissolving them from the feet up. That's pretty horrible. Like, you know, just imagine, basically, like, not even just watching yourself do these things, but you feel the sensations of it too. Like, you don't want to do it, but something else is controlling your body and making you do these things. And you feel it, you feel all of it, all the sensations of it. That's pretty horrible. Like, I mean, Ciel has gone through some shit. There's no question about it. I mean, of course, the original visual novel did cover this, but it didn't really go into detail like I think the remake is trying to do. I did all this in only a week. I put the townsfolk's lives in the palm of my hand and began toying with them simply for the sake of my own amusement. I wished I could have just gone mad and left everything to me, but if I did that, I would probably only go on to commit even more grievous sins. So I kept on going. I had to stay sane. I had to go on living so that I could rein in my actions. There wasn't much time left until the collapse. Not the collapse of the town, but of something much greater. The realization of the projects the me inside had spent so much time building up. To that end, I had persisted in eternity. To that end, I had gathered the blood of many humans. To that end, they now gathered, having turned many more towns into the same kind of necropolis mine had become. It wasn't long before my consciousness would burn out. Still cursed, I would vanish before I could bear witness to the end of the world that would occur on that night. And yet, it could be said that salvation did arrive, for that nightmare came to an abrupt end. Oh, there she is. The woman in white arrived alongside the crimson moon. I didn't recognize her, but I understood who she was. The sixth ritual had begun. Having obtained the body that had once been mine, I thought they'd finally be able to make the woman in white theirs, and then the unspeakable incident came to its conclusion. By the time that battle was over, the vampiress in white had killed me. I had already made preparations for their next reincarnation and was born again, leaving behind nothing but my corpse. The woman in white left, and my corpse was brought to the Vatican. I guess that's where Ciel was experimented on. They discovered she had an immortal body.